Okay. Hello. Oh, that was interesting. Okay. I'm not even sure where to start with this one, but all I know is that I'm done pretending when it comes to men. All right. Let me preface by saying this is not an episode meant to bash men. Okay. I may seem a little frustrated, a little passionate, if you will, when I'm talking about this, but I'm more so frustrated with how society has created these dynamics between men and women. So, when in doubt, blame society. That's what I do. In this episode, yes, I'm going to be specifically talking to women, but I also really want to encourage men to have an open perspective about this because I feel like you guys could benefit from understanding the perspective of women and why we may do certain things in relationships. I just think it's a episode for all, okay? I really want you all to leave here knowing how to catch yourself in these moments where you feel like you're performing, but also I want you to leave here knowing how to remain independent in a romantic relationship. Too often, especially with women, I feel like we overgive and overpour ourselves into our partners because we've been shown our whole lives that that's what we were supposed to do. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if you can't tell, I'm extremely passionate about this topic. Let me just also preface by saying I want you all to take everything I say with a grain of salt, okay? I am not a fucking relationship expert by any means. I just have observed and, learned some things in my 25 years that I have come to understand better. And, I've talked with other girlfriends about this, so I thought I'd share it with you all. Now, I want to throw a question out there to the group. Mostly talking to women, but again, this is open for all. And maybe men do this too, I don't know. When you find yourself in a new relationship or, talking to somebody else, do you over fantasize the reality? And what I mean by that is, do you sit and think about future experiences with this person? Like, oh, this is what our first trip is going to look like. This is how I'm going to introduce them to my family and they're going to love them and yada, yada, yada. And I only ask this because I am extremely guilty of this. I have talked to other girlfriends who are extremely guilty of this. And we got to put a stop to that shit, okay? I've gotten to a point now where I catch myself doing it and I'm like, no, we're not going there. We are not going there. Because for a long time, I would paint a perception of who I thought these men were in my head because I was so excited about the connection. But what ended up happening is because I didn't see them for who they were, I ended up getting disappointed in the end because they didn't turn out to be the version of them that I had created in my head. Like, I did it to myself. You know what I mean? And so, now yes, this is extremely harmful. And if you find yourself doing it, just know it's okay because you're not the only one. Like I said, I've talked to other girlfriends who have been guilty of this too. So again, I will blame society for this one because as I've had time to reflect on why this is, I've come to recognize that maybe where this fantasy and fantasizing of realities comes from is part of, the upbringing or the media that I was exposed to as a child. And this is just my theory, so again, grain of salt here, people. I'm just a woman speaking her truth and perspective on the matter. But from a young age, I remember being exposed to the world of Disney princesses. Oh yeah, I'm going there. Disney princesses, while as entertaining as they were to watch, they were also extremely harmful, I feel like, to young girls because of how they were portrayed. From the way they looked to the way in which they saw their purpose in the world. And I want to say first, I'm not talking about the modern day princesses like Elsa and Moana, okay? I'm talking about Belle, Sleeping Beauty, and Ariel and shit, And there are multiple things wrong with how these movies were made. And I could probably do a whole episode dissecting these movies, but I'm just going to focus on one thing from them today, all right? And that being that all these princesses end up with one thing in the end. And this one thing lays the foundation of the entire movie. And that one thing? Any guesses? Love. Gross. Disgusting. Just this pisses me off because when I think about this now, they didn't portray these princesses as strong, independent women who could accomplish things on their own and choose their own path. So while there may have been some of that, they always ended up with a man in the end. What the hell is that? Fuck. And another thing, we're just gonna act like the first man they meet is the love of their life. You know what I'm saying? And then, they just fall in love with each other in one day and then they live happily ever fucking after. Get fucked. That is so. Come on. And again, I know this is fantasy, but here's why it's damaging for little girls, okay? We grow up believing that one day we're going to find our Prince Charming, that one day we'll find a man to spend the rest of our lives with, and that this is the life we're supposed to grow up in, and when we get older, that's what we're meant to do. There's no dreams. There's no goals. These women are not going after something that they want. Their sole purpose is to find a man and fall in love, and that's disgusting to me. Not to mention, they are all hypersexualized, but again, story for another time. Obviously, I'm passionate about this, but I bring this up because I have a strong belief that this is why women over fantasize our realities with men today. Because all we have ever been shown since the time we could fucking walk was that happily ever afters meant finding a man to spend the rest of your life with. No thank you. Harmful as fuck. Very harmful. And another thing. Because this belief, may be subconsciously rooted in the back of our brains, I fear that we as women perform or behave a certain way in relationships because we crave this idea of love. And I don't want to speak for all women because maybe you're just like, Lana, shut the fuck up. I'm not a hopeless romantic, but I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe you are like me. Fuck, I don't know. I guess I'm mostly speaking from my own experience because I feel like I've always been obsessed with this idea of love, which I know is so annoying and stupid. But another thing is that I've always been heavily influenced by films or just things that I see. And it's probably the empath in me, but whatever. Anyways, quick side story. I remember when I was about maybe 11 or 12, I watched this movie called Practical Magic. It's a great movie, by the way. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman star as these two sisters who come from this family of witches, and there's like this curse that has been placed on the family for generations. And it states that any woman who falls in love with a man will die. A little dark for a pubescent teenager, but it is what it is. Anyways, Sandra's character in the beginning, she's like maybe 10, you know what I mean? And they find out about this curse. Well, she makes this spell, for her future man. And she's like putting in all these spices into a basket, talking about he's going to have one blue eye and one green eye, and his favorite shape is going to be a star. Bitch, when I tell you, my little hopeless romantic ass went outside immediately after that movie was finished. And I started conjuring up a spell talking about my man is going to have one dark brown eye and one hazel eye, and his favorite shape is going to be a crescent. Like, get the fuck out of here. What was I doing? Anyways, to make a long story short, I know from personal experiences that films and forms of media that I was exposed to at a young age really influenced the way I think about love today and how I went about relationships as I got older. I was heavily performative in a lot of my early relationships because I wanted what I thought so many other women had, and what I mean by that is I tried to be overly feminine because that's what I thought men liked. Like I would always have my hair done. I would always have my makeup done and be wearing something nice because I wanted to impress and I wanted to appease what I thought they liked. And ultimately because I wanted to be loved. So if you haven't figured out already, I have some major seeking validation issues, but we're working on it. Life goes on. At least I'm self-aware. The thing is, though, is that doing all those things, having my hair done and being dressed up all the time never really felt like me. And for a long time, I ignored that because I wanted to find love. I wanted to just be loved. And I think this idea of love has only amplified for me as I've gotten older because now, especially, I'm at an age where people are getting married, people are buying houses, having babies, and it just feels more real. And naturally, I feel behind. I haven't been in a serious relationship in a very long time. A lot of my, not all, but a lot of my college to now interactions have been mostly situationships where, again, I found myself overextending because I think I still fear that I'm chasing this happily ever after that I feel like so many of my peers seem to have. But recently, I've really just had to look internally at myself, and I've found that, you know what? I don't need someone externally to feel loved. Like, I am capable of giving that to myself. Obviously, this is going to take time. This shit don't just happen overnight, my boy. You know what I mean? And I think I've slowly been learning how to cultivate self-love for myself and really, appreciate time in solitude and time by myself, because at the end of the day, self-love is a journey. It's not just going, like I said, it's just not going to just happen overnight. You have to kind of force yourself into those moments to spend time with yourself and to sit in solitude and be like, oh, this is who I am when I'm not performing. This is who I am when I'm alone. I think the thing we need to learn how to do is we need to learn how to let go of fear. We need to release this idea that being alone is such a horrible thing, because if we fear being alone, we have some bigger issues that behind the scenes that need to be addressed. You know, I recently read this book by Nicholas Sparks, which insane. Had no idea that he was the one who wrote The Notebook. Okay, that just blew my fucking mind. And it's insane how this man is able to get into the mind of a woman. I don't understand that shit. Like, bro, what? How are you? I don't understand that. But anyways, in this specific book, it's called Nights in Rodothane, if you want to read it. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't fucking know. Anyways, the premise of the book is that this main character, Adrene, is like in her mid-40s. She ends up getting a divorce that really kind of blindsides her. You know, he ends up leaving her for a younger woman. Classic. Anyway. And she's kind of going through this midlife crisis because this isn't how she envisioned her life going. You know, she has 3 kids, and she's just trying to, like, not only grieve what's happening, but, like, work through just being by herself now at this age. And in time, she really starts to realize, like, how much she's actually neglected herself, because she has spent so much time investing herself into her kids and into her husband. And she's like, well, fuck, like, who am I without those things? Like, how did I get here? You know? And I think the point I'm trying to make here is that too often we as women feel the need to always step up and always be the ones to provide emotional stability. And that's fucking exhausting, you know? I think that it obviously is like our natural maternal instinct, and I love that we're like that, but I think we forget that we need to pour that energy back into ourselves, or we're just going to be completely burnt out and, you know, lose ourselves in the process. Like, I know I don't want to get to my 40s and be, like, so lost in the other parts of my life that I don't know myself, you know? And that I'm using these external things or people to fill my happiness. That's not right. That is not right, you know? And I'll give you another example. I also just recently watched this older movie with Goldie Hawn, and it was called The First Wives Club. Another great film about sisterhood. In one of my earlier episodes, I talk about how, you know, the right women can bring out that confidence amongst each other. Like, sisterhood is so important. But anyways, this movie, they also lose their husbands to a younger woman, and they are struggling to discover who they are without their husbands. And eventually they end up getting justice, and they really redefine themselves and walk confidently into this next chapter as who they are and who they are in these older days, you know? And I have no idea why the universe is, you know, providing me with all these examples of older women perspectives, but here we are. I think it's to remind me that, you know, having a man or having a partner come into our lives doesn't mean that they are a replacement for something that is missing internally. You know, like, they're not meant to provide happiness. Plus, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone anyway. So for me, I really want to make sure that as the next relationship comes my way, I want to be aware of my own presence in the relationship. And remember that I need to take time to nurture myself. I don't think relationships are meant to fill the voids that live within all of us. They're just meant to walk beside us. So, sure, people help change us and they help guide us, right? And there are those certain people in our lives whose presence brings us peace, but don't let that someone else be the reason for your peace, We have a responsibility as women to remain in our power because, bitch, we are that fucking bitch. Like, I don't know what else to say, but I guess I just hate seeing other women, and I'm guilty of this too, but I hate seeing other women dim their light or lose themselves to someone else because we're so busy making sure that everybody else is good, I feel like this has been one of those episodes that I could go on and on about forever, but I do need to leave you all with some homework. I'm just playing. But definitely some takeaways to these thoughts that I have spilled today. Number one, stop performing for these men. You know what I'm saying? Stop doing that shit. I'm done projecting myself as someone that I think they would like. I'm starting to get into this mindset that my man, my partner, is already out there. And they will love me not for what I look like or how I present myself, but for exactly who I am. And I'm done being performative. It's exhausting and it's inauthentic to myself, so ew. Not doing that. Not doing that shit anymore. And, I may be a little tomboyish, and I'm cool with that, You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not walking around in heels all day, and that may be some women, and that's okay, but that's just not me. And I'm getting a little off topic here, so let me reel it in. Stop performing for men. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Be you. And if they don't like the real you, that's their loss. And you will find somebody who will love you for you. Secondly, stop over fantasizing your reality. If he wanted to, he would. Let them show you who they really are. Okay? If you spend so much time creating this version of who you think they are in your head, you're going to be the one who ends up getting disappointed because they are, in fact, not who you made them out to be. I'm mostly talking to myself, and obviously I'm really passionate about this one, but let's be real. Now, third, and probably the most important, do not lose yourself trying so hard to provide for everybody else. Let's not be the woman in our 40s fighting to understand why someone didn't choose us when this whole time we could have been choosing ourselves. Let's learn that lesson now so we don't have to have a midlife crisis. You know what I mean? I mean, do what you want, but I definitely don't want to be in my 40s wondering how the fuck I got to this point. Okay? So don't be scared of solitude, and always remember that the love for yourself comes first. Nurture your body, nurture your mind, nurture your soul, and the rest will fall into place. All right. I'm reaching the end of my rope here. The last thing I will say is this. Stop trying so hard to be the woman you think you need to be and just start being you. I've said this before and I'll say it again, but no one person is the same. So learn how to love yourself and step into that confidence, because, babe, that's what it's all about. You know, and when you're embodying yourself as who you are, I believe that you will attract the partner that is meant for you. And it won't feel performative. It won't feel exhausting. It will feel like home. It will feel like you can walk beside one another without losing yourself completely, you know? Okay, fuck. I'm gonna shut up now. I was obviously really passionate about this one. I also feel like I'm finally getting a little bit more comfortable with you guys, you know what I mean? Anyways, I hope you guys tune in next week to Raw, Real Authentic Woman. I really have appreciated doing this. It's filling my cup. So, see you guys next week. Peace.